Hello, it's Elisa here. So today I want to make a video about how I started practicing my intuitive eating. And I started to practice my intuitive eating. Of course, I tried to do it throughout my recovery, but the point where I could really start to see some changes was the point when I finally stopped over-exercising and skipping meals, like intermittent fasting that I did in recovery, because I had so much fear, like weight gain or whatever, like this is not healthy to eat so much like junk foods and stuff. So you have to first come to the point when you're absolutely like not restricting anything and not overstressing your body with like exercise and stuff like that, because your body like needs rest first and foremost in recovery. So if you have taken care of any restriction, you are not compensating, over exercising, you are resting, sleeping enough and stuff like that, then really you have like a good base to start practice intuitive eating. And also when you are finally like weight restored, you have your menstruation back and your body is like physically like recovered, I would say, then intuitive eating will happen like much more like naturally. And yeah, otherwise when you're still underweight or you are still in like lack of calories and you're still compensating, then intuitive eating like it's almost like impossible to happen, because your body just like physically is still like so out of balance. And yeah, you may need like more calories or whatever. But yeah, okay, I will stop rambling. But when you are in the point when you are not restricting, compensating anything, and you are like weight restored and things like that, then you can really start to practice your hunger and fullness signals. And I just want to explain how I started to practice my hunger and fullness. Yeah, so I would do things like I would start to eat meals throughout the day, and also when I was eating like throughout my meals, I will like taste the food, ask myself, do I like this food, is it tasty? Or when I went to the shop, I would ask myself, like, I can have every food I want from the shop, what is that I want today? No matter if it's like potatoes, or no matter if it's like ice cream or chocolate or whatever, like absolutely all foods are allowed. And Elisa, what do you want to eat today for this meal? What do you crave? What would satisfy you at this particular moment? And there is no guilt, no rules, like I don't have to follow like anything. I can have dessert for breakfast or lunch or dinner, or like the other way, like whatever. So I would ask myself what I want to eat, and for me it was very, very important that I actually ate what I craved, because in my like eating disorder past, I would always try to eat something more healthier, or try to have like, I don't know, balanced meals or whatever, like have these rules around foods and what I can eat and cannot eat. So for me this was the one specific thing that was very, very important for my recovery. And maybe also it can be important for you, that you eat what you crave or what you want, and you don't listen to like some other external rules or anything. And the other thing was that when I ate the food, I started to taste it. I started to ask myself, like, am I full? Am I getting full? Or like notice how my stomach feels, or at what point I feel hungry. At what point do I feel like half full? At what point do I feel comfortably full? At what point do I feel overly full? At what point do I feel already like stuffed, and things like that. So I started to really like notice these things. And sometimes I would eat over my fullness. So I would, because I think like I just didn't know how to eat normally, so it was like very normal that I sometimes would still eat like over my fullness. But I started to notice it. The first thing, like, okay, for this meal I feel that I ate a bit too much. and maybe I could have ate like one potato less, and I would have felt like better and satisfied at the same time. So maybe next meal I can try to eat like a little bit less than I would normally eat, because normally I always ate like past my fullness. So I started to put like a portion on my plate, and I tried to not finish it all. I know that this sounds like I was trying to diet or restrict, but it wasn't, because every time I would overeat before that. So I tried to finish my eating before my plate was actually totally like finished or empty, if it makes sense. And I left some leftovers on my plate, and I put them in the fridge, and I was like I just want to experiment if half an hour later I would still feel hungry and I still want to eat, or even like 15 minutes later or something. And I started to stop myself from eating past some certain point, or not finish the entire plate, but instead put something like leftover in my fridge and like save it for later, and to just see if I'm still hungry like half an hour later, or how my body feels when I don't overeat anymore. So I started to put I'm like repeating myself like okay, but I still want to like make this point clear, that I finished eating before my plate was totally like empty, and I went on and do something different. I maybe watched the serial, or I read a book, or I did some work, or I went out and took a walk or something, and I just wanted to see if I would really like feel hungry and I craved some more, or maybe it was all like the habit of always overeating, like with a past of bulimia. And yeah, and I started to notice that I actually was full, and I felt so weird that I didn't felt stuffed, but at the same time I was satisfied. I felt comfortably full for the like fucking first time in my life. Yeah, and it felt good. And I was like, yeah, actually like half an hour later I feel full and I don't like crave anything. So maybe like one of this like part was the habit of always needing to overeat because of my past of bulimia and always binging and stuff like that. So I started to experiment with this and to really like see at what point do my body actually gets full with less food or without having to like stuff myself. And I started to like not eat or eat little bit less than I was used to, because I used to overeat all the time. And I started to notice that no, I didn't felt hungry like half an hour later, and I was satisfied. And I think by doing this conscious choice to stop eating at past like specific point, I actually came like more in tune with my hunger signals, and I wasn't overeating anymore. And this like little by little it became very natural, and I started to like naturally crave less food, or not like dieting less or whatever, but just eating when I was comfortably full, not like overly full, if that makes sense. And this is how I started to practice my like fullness signals. And how I started to practice my hunger signals was that yeah, I made sure like after every meal I'm comfortably full, I don't have any more cravings, or I'm not like starving or restricting myself or anything. And then I would start to like just do my everyday stuff like between meals, not worry about food or my body or whatever, and just did some work and read something and got some like interests. So I wasn't like occupied by food thoughts all the time anymore. And also because my hunger signals or my cravings were satisfied at every meal. So and I started to notice that I could do my own stuff between meals, and it was very liberating, because before that I was always like thinking about foods and what to eat, like how much or whatever. But when my body was becoming more and more balanced, it was yeah, interesting how in I don't know, I could do my own stuff like 2 hours, few hours, and then maybe I feel like, okay, I am getting hungrier, but not so hungry to have like a full meal or something. And then maybe I would have a snack. Or maybe I felt, okay, I'm now hungry, I'm ready to eat, and then I would have like a full meal of something. But also like not stuffing myself, not overeating, but just eating like a normal portion. And I always told myself that if I'm hungry in an hour or whatever, I can always have a snack. Like the food is not going anywhere, and the food is never gonna be restricted again. So I don't need to, I have no reason to overeat anymore. And I think by doing that, like affirming myself that food is always available, like my brain also started to catch up with my body's recovery. And I started to think like a normal eater, that food is always there and there is no restriction, no dieting, and I can eat when hungry, stop when full, and all is good. And I think by doing all these kind of things, I kind of taught myself how to like eat normally again. But definitely it was a process. It didn't happen overnight, but this is how I started to practice my like intuitive eating and listen to my body. And yeah, but to start with intuitive eating, you have to have like a basic body's recovery in place, like not restricting anymore, not compensating, not over exercising, stuff like that. So yeah, so I will finish the video now, and you can tell me like what you think. Yeah, I hope this video like made sense, maybe help you in some way in your intuitive eating journey and in your recovery. So yeah, thank you for watching, and see you in the next video. Bye.